We're now going to move from the past to the present by joining Susan Brandeis in her gallery at the festival. Susan is a professor of art and design in the College of Design at North Carolina State University. Her processes include various surface design techniques such as screen printing, dyeing, and more recently, digital printing. Digital printing excites Susan as it enables her to embed her photographic imagery into her cloth as opposed to simply using it as a reference. Susan's exhibition is a retrospective of her work over the past 30 years. Now, retrospectives always make fascinating exhibitions, as they allow us to appreciate how different sources of inspiration will influence the work, or how a strong source will stay steady but be handled in a different style or through the use of different techniques. While Susan makes contemporary work, she uses many traditional techniques such as strip piecing and appliqué, but in a way that achieves the results she's looking for. So, enjoy this guided tour through the influences and subsequent works generated in the past 30 years by Susan Brandeis.
Hello, I'm Susan Brandeis, and I've come to the Festival Quilts here in Birmingham from North Carolina, where I'm a professor at North Carolina State University. I'm here to teach a master class and have this gallery. I'll also be giving a couple of lectures, one tomorrow on living a creative life. And to understand some of my work, I'm going to bring you in the gallery, and we're going to take a sort of chronological trip through my work over the years, starting in 1978. So the first piece I'm going to show you is from 1978. It was a piece I did when I was still a student, and I was learning to dye and print and to piece fabric. And I was very excited about the possibility that I could make something this large and control all the color myself. I was very inspired by the work of Friedrich Hundertwasser and the Vienna Secessionists, and based this piece on one of his paintings. I brought this piece with me because it was one of the first pieces I did at this scale, and I have continued to work at a fairly large scale, so it was very important for me to make that leap from very small work to very large work. The piece just to the next side of this is a piece that I did 3 years later. It was a big change in my work. I had gotten really interested in aerial photography and looking at the earth from above, and using my newly found design and design skills in a much more organic way, and beginning to make more texture and relief surface. You can see the detail in this area where there are stuffed elements, things that are tucked, pieced, stitched, gathered, and a lot of raw edges left to provide a lot of texture on the surface. This is a piece that I did in 1989, which was done for the Lausanne Biennale. In this piece, I'm beginning to explore the earth from above, but closer, near our feet, and came from hiking in the North Carolina woods and looking at the debris on the forest floor, and really taking the idea of the texture to that next level with a lot of screen printing and dyeing and non-representational color. The piece is constructed entirely of strips. It's actually strip piecing, small bits of fabric sewn together and then arranged on the background. Some of it pushed up and stitched so that there's almost like an accordion effect on the surface. The fabric becomes very stiff, actually. There's about 30 yards of fabric in this piece, and it becomes very stiff, and it allows me to get that dimension, and it holds its dimension when it's pleated up like that. We've now arrived in 1991, and this is a piece that, the only one I have left in a small series that I did that was based on the rhythm of waves at the shore. North Carolina, where I live, is bounded by mountains and by the seashore, and so I began to be really interested in trying to make works that were more light reflective, like light coming off of the water. And so using the reflective materials, building up the surface, but using more curves and that rhythm of the waves on the shore. In this piece also, like the last one, not only using the strip piecing and on my own screen printed fabric, but I'm cutting and appliquing small pieces to the surface, both in cottons and in iridescent metallic fabrics. Well, the last piece was done in 1991, and now we're at 2001. And in that interval, I began to be interested in digitally printing on fabric and found that there were facilities accessible at my university. So now I am able to incorporate my own photographs into the work rather than just using them for inspiration. In this piece, which was part of a series I did based on the rainforest, Cape Perpetua in Oregon, I have taken pictures of tide pools and plant life and lichen and things on rocks and put them together in separate panels. We perceive things differently when we look at them close up, and I've tried to capture some of that by joining two pieces of fabric, both of them with prints on them, with very delicately changing colors of satin stitch on the surface. And I've allowed the front piece of fabric to ripple a little bit so that it seems like you're looking through the surface of water into a tide pool. This piece has been one of the most popular in my gallery here at the Festival of Quilts. Lots of people have asked me about it. And it's related to the piece that we just looked at. It was also inspired by lichen and water and tide pools on the Oregon coast. And it includes a little bit of my own hand weaving. And in this one also a lot of hand stitching as well as the machine stitching. The contrast here was inspired by my response to the place and some of the contrasts in scale and in color that I found in the place. I tried to accomplish that through using some hand weaving and also a stark change in color, complementary colors, and a change in scale of the fabrics themselves. This next piece, which is also inspired by my fieldwork in Oregon, utilizes the woven strips that were originally a couple of large-scale photographs of rocks on the shore. I stripped them both and wove them together and set them with the other panels to sort of suggest the strata of rock and things that I found on the coast. This band here was a close-up of some of the rock textures, and I put it in the computer, manipulated it, changed its color, and inserted it as a counterpoint to some of the blue that was showing up in the other photographs. One of the things I liked about the way these strips of fabric plated together was that the edges were raw, and I left them to fray, and as the piece has gotten older, it's frayed more and more, and that's been really a wonderful effect. It adds to that sort of texture that is both virtual and real. You can see in this piece that I've carried forward some of those techniques, but now I'm basing the work on field work I've done in the American Southwest desert. The images are coming from petroglyphs that are carved on rock faces in the American Southwest, and I've used a variety of materials, handmade felt, reverse appliqué, which helps really show the way the petroglyphs are carved into rock. The images are both presented with photography and then also stitched on the hand wovens and the felt inserted. This work also allowed me to use my love of hiking in natural places in the United States. Going to these places where these petroglyphs are on the cliffs is an amazing experience, and I love being able to use it in my work and translate that and share it with other people. I've chosen to end with this piece, which was made in 2007, because it actually brings me back almost full circle to the more abstract work I was doing in 1978. I made this as a way of marking time and filling a large surface with marks. The construction here is, again, 2 layers of fabric, one that's hand screen printed and then another that is dyed and screen printed. They're pulled together, and they're connected by all of these small marks, which are the marks of my own hand. Thanks for letting me share my work here at the Festival of Quilts with you. I hope you too can find some inspiration in what I've shared with you, and I look forward to seeing you another year.